Hi, today we want to go over a couple quick points on the upcoming midterm elections. And we want to start, of course, with a historical perspective of voting in the country as far as our people are concerned. We were given the vote, I believe it was 1867 when that amendment passed, the 14th Amendment, and gave us the right to vote, black men. I believe it was 14th or 15th Amendment. I think it was the 14th, but it was in 1867. Gave us the right to vote, even though white feminists were against it. Like, what's her name? Susan Anthony. Was it Susan? Susan, the one they put on the coin.
Susan B. Anthony.
Susan B. Anthony. She was against it. She told Frederick Douglass, our champion and hero of our people at the time, that black men shouldn't get the vote until white women got the vote, which didn't happen until 1920. And that's interesting because, of course, in 1912, after President Wilson was elected, the suffragettes, the women who were fighting for the right for women to vote, had a big march down Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., and they didn't want to offend the Southern women in the coalition, so they told the black women they couldn't march with them. Some sisterhood. And then the black woman had to march behind them in a separate march. Some sisterhood. Of course, Ida B. Wells, our champion, she disregarded it and marched with the white women of Illinois in the parade. But the bottom line is, white women got to vote in 1920. Black women didn't get to vote in the entire country for a president of the United States until the 1968 election. That's when the black women first got to vote, because the Voting Rights Act didn't pass till 1965. They could vote in the midterms in 1966, but the presidential election wasn't until 68. That's the first time all women in this country got the right to vote. White women in 1920, but black women not until 1965 Voting Act, and not a presidential election to 1968. So that's some perspective for the women who are black who want to follow these white feminists. All they're doing is expressing the problem they have with their man, which is what Frederick Douglass told Susan B. Anthony. What did he say? Something to the effect of the struggle for an entire race has nothing to do with the problems you have with your man. This is ridiculous. But what we need to understand is we made it all this way as strong family. They're attacking the black family. We don't want to see that. You sisters need to be with brothers, not some guy from another nation whose ancestors were raping your ancestors, right? Your great-great-great-great-grandmother being raped by his great-great-great-grandfather, not a damn thing she could do about it, and now you laid up marrying him. What is wrong with you sisters? Because you see the sister Jackson or whatever her name on the Supreme Court. You see some of these other people. And then you see brothers with white women as well. All of it is incorrect. You should be marrying within your own group of race of people to produce strong black family. This is what we need to survive America. It's that simple. So going back to the voting situation, we did get the vote in 1867, black men, and of course it was taken away after the Great Compromise of 1877, where they wanted to keep the Republican in office. And after that happened, Hayes, and then after that happened, 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson, Supreme Court ruling made segregation legal, or what they call Jim Crow. And today we have a new form of Jim Crow, which they call James Crow Esquire. Because what it is today, it's a more sophisticated form of the same old mess. And now what you find is there's a division between black and white. Yes, there's also a division within the black community on these voting issues. You see it in the midterm here. Some people are with the Republicans, most are with the Democrats. Here's the thing, the Republicans have shown themselves to be overt racists. The Democrats have shown themselves to be covert racists. They're both racist, except one's out in the open with his racism in the case of Republicans. In the case of the Democrats, their racism is, well, concealed. You know, they're still pushing homosexual agendas where you won't reproduce yourself. That's a big part of what they do. They incarcerate our men and women. That's a big part of it. And this is all after they took all of the programs out of public schools where you could be certified to be electricians, mechanics, welders, I mean, you name it. Then they took all the industry out of the communities in the 70s. When I was a boy, a man could work in a factory. He could buy a house. He had 2 cars, one for him, one for his wife. His wife did not have to work, and he was working in a factory. He had great benefits, retirement, everything. This is what used to go on. When they killed that, killed the economy in the black community, in part because we were supporting the Black Panther Party for self-defense at the time, financially as a community, who were in our interest when they made them public enemy #1. That's part of it. That's a major part of it. But nevertheless, they did not want to empower us. They didn't. They wanted us to not be economically and politically empowered. So much so, they shifted all the jobs to China, Brazil, places like this, overseas. Now they're trying to bring some of these industries back. But they shift them off just because they wanted to render us dormant and docile economically and politically. Don't forget that. Democrats and Republicans, they're the same. This is the American imperialist party with a right-wing Republican, a left-wing Democrat. Neither one has your interest. Now the Democrats locked you up with the Clinton-Biden bill, and now from 1900 to 1992, incarcerated 1 million people in this country. But from 92 to 2000, a second million. It took them 92 years to do. They repeated in 8 years. This is what they're doing against you. And you still voting for these people? That's ridiculous. Then Obama comes in with the homosexual agenda. Now they forcibly teach homosexuality to children. You can be pro whatever you want to be, gay or not. That's not the issue. The issue is it's not for kindergartners to decide. That's the issue. So now you have that whole thing is impacting our community. A lot of people don't want to reprocreate, right? They don't want to reproduce themselves. Women with women can't do it. Men with men can't do it. So now we have those issues, plus people incarcerated. They're trying to mess with our numbers. This is about population control. And so many people are with the Democrats. We fought all that time, spilled all that blood to get this legislation so we could vote, so we could be treated like human beings. And then by 1964, the Civil Rights Bill, 65, the voting rights. And in 67, white women start getting all the attouchments from those bills because the women's movement. Now they got the gay movement. They got all these other different movements that people are now participating in what black people fought for themselves. Because justice is indivisible. Once one gets it, everyone should be able to participate. But we're the ones being left behind. So remember these things when you run out to this midterm election. Neither party's for you. And it's going to be difficult for some of you all to come to that conclusion. But neither party's for you. They both have agendas working against your betterment. This is the fact. And what you should do is set up independent parties of our own where we represent our own interests. We go to these people as a voting bloc and say, listen, if you want our support, we got X amount, 100 million votes or whatever it is, tens of millions, whatever. If you want our support, what we'll do is make a deal with you, the same way other ethnic groups do. And this is what we'll want. And we don't want police in our neighborhoods harassing our youth. We don't want these drugs and guns being dumped in our neighborhoods. We want equality, or at least we want self-determination. That's what we want. So remember that when you're talking about going into the voting booth. And we'll talk again later.